Welcome, seekers, to the edge of the known world. Tonight we journey where the veil is thinnest, where the ancient pacts between the light and the shadow are tested. Take a deep breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. For this is a story of a shaman, a demon, and the oldest battle of all. The integrity of the soul. Our tale begins high in the whispering peaks in a secluded village carved into the mountainside called Emberwood. For generations, Emberwood had been guarded by the bloodline of the great shamans. Their current protector was an old man named Kael, a man whose face was mapped by the years and whose eyes held the cold, vast silence of the mountain lakes. Kael was a master of the drum, a translator of wind, and a tireless keeper of the balance. For centuries the balance had held, but the balance, like a weathered rope bridge, only requires a single fraying strand to break. The trouble started subtly. It began with the dreams, not the nightmares of fear, but the slow, paralyzing dreams of absence. The villagers would wake up feeling hollow, their purpose eroded, their hope dissolved like salt in water. The laughter of children turned hollow, the hands of the craftsmen grew clumsy, the drum of the nightly communal dance fell silent. The fire was burning, but the warmth was gone. Emberwood was dying, not from famine or sickness, but from profound spiritual exhaustion. Kael observed the creeping cold with growing dread. He tried the traditional remedies, the purifying smoke of cedar, the protective circles of river stone, the calling of the mountain spirits. But the sickness persisted deeper than any curse he had ever faced. This felt less like an attack and more like a subtle, intelligent siege. He knew this was no ordinary sorrow. This was the signature of the outer darkness. Kael spent 3 agonizing nights in his lodge seeking counsel from the ancestors' circle, the sacred arrangement of stones where the spirits of his predecessors spoke. He prepared the strongest healing brew, a mix of high mountain juniper and bitter river root, and offered his blood for clarity. He beat the drum for hours, sweat slicking his torso, demanding an answer. But the silence from the circle was absolute. It wasn't refusal, it was a vast, terrifying emptiness. The energy he usually drew upon, the shared wisdom of his lineage, felt consumed. The outer darkness had established a spiritual quarantine. The terrifying implication settled upon him. The weaver was not merely an attacker. It was a sapper, cutting off the villages and his own lifelines. This isolation was its first and most potent weapon. He attempted a grand, desperate ritual. He gathered 3 strands of his own hair, 3 drops of water from the holy spring, and 3 embers from the village hearth. He placed them on the altar and chanted the invocation of the threefold light, a spell known only to his bloodline. As he spoke the final words, the spring water in the bowl did not boil or glow. It simply froze solid, instantly turning black as obsidian. The hearth embers winked out. The natural world was screaming its refusal to assist. Kael felt his heart shrivel under the weight of this spiritual isolation. He was truly on his own. Before Kael begins his terrifying descent, if the whispers of the unseen world call to you, if you seek to understand the truths held by the ancient ones, I ask you to pause for a moment and join our journey. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. By strengthening our circle, you help us ensure this vital, transformative wisdom continues to be heard in a world that needs the light. This path is long, but you are not meant to walk it alone. Thank you for being here. Now let us return to the shaman. Kael prepared for the deep dive. He knew the source of the plague lay in the lower world, where the unmanifested energies of corruption fester. But as he sat by the fire preparing his drum, the air grew thick like breathing cold velvet. A thought, sly and sharp, pierced his mind. Why bother? You failed once. You will fail again. It was a whisper of his oldest wound. Years ago, Kael had lost his apprentice, a boy he swore to protect, to a sudden shadow illness he couldn't recognize. He carried that failure like a stone in his heart. He realized then, the entity attacking Emberwood wasn't just feeding on the villagers' despair, it was using Kael's own shame as a magnetic lure. It was calling him into a trap. This was no brute beast of the Shadowlands. This was the Shadow Weaver, a master manipulator, one who feeds not on flesh, but on the erosion of integrity. Kael took a ceremonial breath and struck the drum. Boom, boom, boom. The world dissolved into the rhythmic waves of sound. He left the mortal plane, descending through the shimmering layers of the middle world. The journey down was brutal. The Shadow Weaver's influence had corrupted the very pathways. Colors were inverted, and helpful guides appeared as monstrous, distorted versions of themselves, their eyes pleading, their forms twisted into mocking parodies of light. Kael had to rely on sheer, focused willpower, the memory of Emberwood's true light, to keep from being swallowed by the chaos. The middle world, usually a vibrant tapestry of natural spirits and guardian energies, was a sickening echo chamber. He passed the great spirit of the river bear, usually a symbol of strength and introspection. But now the bear was trapped in an endless, meaningless cycle of eating and vomiting, its protective growl replaced by a despairing whimper. The sight was a dagger to the soul, an attack not on his body but on his belief in the inherent goodness of the universe. Then came the whispers. They weren't the demon's voice, but the voices of his own villagers, distorted into a chorus of accusation. Why didn't you warn us, Kael? Our children are hollow because your faith is thin. The cruelest vision came in the form of his former apprentice, the boy appearing hale and healthy, standing on a precipice, staring down at Kael with eyes full of cold judgment. You mourn me for yourself, the illusion of the boy accused. Your grief is selfish. You use it to feel important. You are a sentimental relic, Kael. The world has moved on. Kael had to physically tear his consciousness away from the illusion, his spirit screaming against the psychic pain. He moved, not by sight, but by memory, clinging only to the visceral, honest sound of his drum. He realized every illusion was a mirror of his own deep self-criticism. The Weaver didn't create new fears. It simply amplified the ones he already held hostage in his heart. He finally broke through the static and landed in the realm of corrupted hope. It was a city of ash and broken glass, mirroring the emptiness in the villagers' hearts. Above it all, suspended in a suffocating cloud of purple smoke, was the Shadow Weaver. The entity had no fixed form, only a shifting silhouette woven from the negative thoughts of millennia. Its voice was not spoken but felt, a cold, oily pressure on Kael's skull.
Welcome, Kael, the keeper of the quiet heart. You came for your village, but you also came for me, didn't you? You came to finally confront the failure you carry, the boy, the apprentice,
The voice struck Kael not with fear, but with paralyzing truth. The Weaver was utterly, perfectly right. Kael felt his spirit sag. His conviction faltered. He was not a warrior. He was a man seeking validation, haunted by guilt.
Look at your weakness. You couldn't save one boy. How can you save a whole village? I'm simply showing them the truth you taught them through your shame. That even the shaman fails. Join me, old man. Let your light die, and the quiet will be eternal.
The Weaver extended a tendril of smoky darkness towards Kael, offering a permanent cessation of pain, a final surrender to numbness. Kael looked down at his hands, the hands that had failed his student, the hands now too weary to strike the drum of power. The Shadow Weaver pressed its advantage, sensing the momentary collapse of Kael's resolve.
The burden is too heavy, Kael. It was never meant for one man. You spend your life fixing the world's sickness, but you never heal your own heart. I offer you peace, a total, blissful dissolution of self. No more responsibility, no more mourning, just quiet. Surrender the drum, surrender the village. Let go of the responsibility to be the light.
This was the true temptation, not power but escape. The demon targeted the shaman's duty, the unending spiritual obligation he had carried for decades, not just his past guilt. The idea of rest was intoxicating, the cessation of constant vigilance, the release from the endless cycle of hope and pain. The Weaver smiled, a horrifying, shapeless stretching of the dark mass. Kael slowly straightened. He looked not at the Weaver's shifting form, but at the dark, desolate land of corrupted hope around them. He saw the cold, black geometry of the broken glass and the ash, and he understood the cost of that blissful dissolution. You call this peace, this desolate emptiness, this erosion of purpose, this is the eternal quiet you offer? You lie, Shadow Weaver. You mistake numbness for rest, responsibility, pain, even failure. These are the fuel for life's forge. To give them up is to give up the fire itself. He took the advice of the earth. He remembered the mountain. Mountains accept all weather, sunshine, blizzards, rockfalls. They do not choose, they are. He neither fought the memory of his shame, nor did he surrender to it. He simply looked at it. He saw the dying apprentice, felt the crushing guilt, and for the first time in decades he let himself feel the pure, searing pain of loss, without judgment. I did fail the boy. I carry that scar. It is a part of my truth. I will never forget it because it is the measure of my love. You, Shadow Weaver, try to use that truth as a chain. But a scar is not a chain. A scar is a map of where the healing began. As Kael spoke, the shame energy the demon was holding, his own internalized darkness, did not disappear. Instead, it transformed. The smoky purple tendril attempting to ensnare him began to glow with a dull, fierce red, the color of molten iron. Kael had owned his own shadow. The Shadow Weaver recoiled, his voice screaming in surprise and pain.
No, that is weakness. That is pain. You must cast it away. You must banish it. Only purity can defeat me.
I do not cast away the truth, Kael said, his voice now a steady hum of power, the rhythm of his heart overriding the rhythm of the drum. I integrate it. I make the pain a teacher. I make the failure a foundation. My shadow is mine, not yours. You cannot feed on what is accepted. The moment Kael claimed his own shadow, the immense, suffocating power of the Weaver collapsed. The demon could only feed on the darkness that was rejected and fought. the energy that caused internal friction. When the darkness was accepted and integrated, it ceased to be a weapon and became simply a piece of the whole. The weaver was starved, its essence thinning and evaporating like mist in the sun. Kael struck his drum once, a final, definitive boom. He did not destroy the demon. He merely denied its sustenance. The weaver, a creature that cannot exist where truth and integration reside, fled back into the deeper, empty void, its defeat not one of strength but of clarity. Kael ascended, leaving the realm of corrupted hope cleansed, the air now sharp with clean, cold wind. As he passed through the middle world, the river bear was stirring, slowly shaking off the torpor, its protective growl returning deep and true. The inverted colors righted themselves. The spirits were free. He opened his eyes back in Emberwood. The sun was just rising. The first sound he heard was not silence, but a child's uncertain then full laughter. The villagers did not know what Kael had done, but they felt the immediate, profound shift. The gray weight was gone. Their purpose had returned. They were grounded once more. Kael walked outside, feeling the full, beautiful weight of his old scar. It was a reminder, not of failure, but of the price of wisdom. This is the ultimate shamanic wisdom, seekers, the truth Kael risked everything to reclaim. The demons are real, the shadow realms exist, and the corruption is always waiting. But the greatest darkness is not the demon outside, but the one you nurture within yourself by rejecting your own pain, your own past failures, or your own mistakes. The true light of the shaman is not the light that seeks to banish the dark, but the light strong enough to accept the dark as part of its own history. When you own your whole truth, the mistakes, the pain, the triumph, you deny the shadow weaver any place to stand. Your integrity is your shield. Your self-acceptance is your sword. Go forward, seekers. Know that the greatest battle is fought in the quiet integrity of your own heart. And know that you are not alone. For the spirits who guide you trust the power of your unwavering whole truth. Walk in light, walk in truth, and walk in peace.